Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Old Hunt, where we are still celebrating 10 years of Bloodborne. We are playing through version 1.00 of the Japanese release, and last time we began our explorations of Yahar'gul. We sort of went through the first section, had to strategically take out some bell ringers in order to lower the defenses of various enemies that have been buffed in a mysterious way. And then we were able to rush through. We eventually found a lamppost, and now we're back here in the dream. And I said I'd be switching to a new weapon. Here it is. It's the Logarius wheel. It's ridiculous. Now, I've never used this weapon before. I have done a Strength Arcane build, but that's the Translation-born playthrough, and I went purely down the route of the Tonitrus. So I've never used this. It's the Executioner weapon, and I don't like the Executioners, so that's got to be part of it, right? As effective as it might be as a weapon, it just makes me feel icky. So, I don't know. But, this is the 10-year celebration, and I want to bring it out into the light, make it part of this ongoing, celebration of Bloodborne that I'm doing here on my channel. So, here it is. We're going to use it. We're going to have some fun, hopefully, with the Logarius wheel. And we're going to read the description. We've already got that out. And while we're at it, I think we're going to dress up like an Executioner ourselves. Might as well get the full-on cosplay going. Anyway, let's quickly take a look at the description here for the wheel. Right, so the Logarius, right, that's Logarius, the Logarius wheel. Literally, it would be the wheel of Logarius, right, because you have no in the middle. Potentially interesting that they use the kanji for sharin, because sha or kuruma, well, it can mean car, it can also mean carriage, right? Sort of, I think you can take the idea of like a car as a horseless carriage and sort of get, because obviously the character that's from like old time China wasn't actually talking about modern cars. In the modern day, you see that kanji and you associate it with cars, right? Automobiles. But it sort of looks like a chariot anyway. If you sort of take the central section as the like part that you would stand in, and then the lines above and below as wheels, and then the line going straight through it as like the axle, you can sort of see how it looks like a chariot. But the fact that they're calling it the like cart wheel or the car wheel, but obviously I think in this case the cart wheel, I think it makes sense that if you look at the image, it looks like the wheel off of a cart, right? That's not how it's going to function necessarily, but that's what it looks like. Anyway, that's sort of the idea of the wheel of Logarius, is that it's a sort of carriage wheel. Also, I've heard people talk about how it's a potential reference to the medieval form of torture known as breaking someone on the wheel. That's right, Gameplay Matt, though since you don't have a good understanding of what the process of breaking someone on the wheel entails, I think I'd better step in to explain that part. Oh, and if anyone watching doesn't feel like listening to a description of a torturous process, please feel free to skip to the time I've put on screen. Okay, so after reading through the article on Wikipedia for the breaking wheel, which is also known as the executioner's wheel, I've gained a new appreciation for the intensity of Martyr Logarius' executioner squad. In the European Middle Ages, breaking on the wheel was used as a form of execution for murderers, rapists, traitors, and robbers in a two-phase process. Phase 1 consisted of using either the wheel of a cart or a specially modified execution wheel to break convicts' bones from the legs up. If the convicts were not then killed, the public executioners moved on to the second phase, which involved fixing the condemned to a different wagon wheel. This sometimes went so far as to involve braiding the person's broken limbs through the spokes of another wheel. One way or another, though, these people would then be mounted on a pole for display before finally being killed. The whole process sounds torturous and awful to me, but if you want to learn more, you can start out at the Wikipedia article I've linked in the description. Now I'll let Gameplay Matt sum up my thoughts on this grisly weapon. That's the idea behind the Logarius wheel, and if you do think of it as like a medieval torture instrument, it sort of makes sense that the executioners would use it for their, little massacre of all the people in Canehurst. But anyway, let's move on from the title of this weapon to the description. Okay, yeah, right in the first line, we're getting confirmation of what I was saying. Weapon of the Executioner Squad, right, to differentiate different group from the Executioners of the Executioner's Gloves. Weapon of the Executioner Squad. once led by Martyr Ligarius. And I mean, I think that's straightforward enough. Let's just go on to the next set of lines here. Okay, we're sort of lacking a subject here, but I think it's still the wheel, the weapon, right? So I'm going to say it. In pounding and crushing the impure blood clan of Canehurst, it became soaked in a vast quantity of their blood. And now that malice covers it in a deeply colored way. Can't think how else to talk about that in a very literal fashion, right? I think the official translation uses something like the phrase steeped in their ire, and I think that does a great job of getting the idea across, right? Because the idea is it's got tons and tons of blood on it, and therefore, just like the executioner's gloves, right? This is, right, so even though the executioner squadron that carried this out is different from the line of executioners, right? Totally separate lineages. We're seeing a similar effect on two different items. So on the one hand, we have the executioner's gloves, which, having killed so many people, became steeped in blood. And now when you activate them with blood, you can see evil spirits, malevolent spirits burst forth. And the people of Canehurst, the Canehurst nobles, used to sort of delight in the motions of those vengeful spirits. Meanwhile, sort of similarly, you've got this wheel, which was used to pound and crush the vile bloods, and has now been steeped in their blood, and there is a vivid cloaking of their grudges in the wheel now, right? So it seems like this massive accumulation of blood, whether it be over a great deal of time or a relatively short one, because I imagine the executions of the vile bloods took place over a shorter span of time than the executions of the family of executioners with those gloves that they kept using over and over again. But in any case, by steeping something in a vast quantity of blood, you're sort of able to make use of the lingering malice that dwells in the item sort of from the dead, right? And it's sort of another way that we might be able to think of blood echoes, right? Because blood echoes come to us. They're sort of the will of the slain, the dead, after they've passed on. They come to inhere in us, and then we can use them to bolster our power. But presumably, if the blood seeps into something, the spirit that is the blood echoes, right, that we've talked about how blood echoes are sort of analogous to souls, or the spirits is the part of life that continues after death, that we saw on the Crowfeather set, then, right, they could sort of seep into an item, and you use a little bit more blood on that item, and those spirits can be called forth on the Executioner's gloves, and also, as we'll see when I actually get to use this item, the Ligarius' wheel. So, interesting sort of logic there in that, like, steeping in blood. And I really like that phrase, like, steeped in blood, or ire, or whatever it is, because it's very effective at conveying the idea that it's, like, soaked in this liquid thoroughly. And that's what happened with the blood. Anyway, let's move on to the final set of section here, and then we'll get to a visual demonstration. Okay, its wonderful, true nature will undoubtedly be exposed if the mechanism of the wheel is activated and those vengeful spirits are released, right? So this sort of takes that same idea that I was getting at and makes it a little bit more obvious, right? Puts it forward a little bit more. So it's going to tell you that if you don't have the wheel transformed, you're not going to see the evil spirits, but when you do, you'll see the true nature of this weapon, which is combined with those vengeful spirits. So let's go ahead and get a little bit of a demonstration here. And so, obviously, we have its untransformed state, which is, boy, what a weird combo that is. It's such a weird weapon. Those are a string of R1s. Here's a regular R2. Okay, let's do a charged R2. That's kind of bizarre. What a weird weapon this is. And then L1 to transform it. Now look at that. It's the same visual effect. And this is why I wanted to call attention way back in the Martyr Ligarius fight. as to how he seems to be surrounded by similar sort of blood ghosts that come out of our executioner's gloves. Well, we have the same thing here on the Ligarius's wheel, right? It's that same sort of effect of blood that has seeped into an item that we're now able to activate. And this is indicated on the weapon itself. Before we get to the full demonstration, I did remember that if we come and look at the weapon here, you'll note that there's a certain amount of arcane damage that it does, right? So the central column there, right? You've got its physical damage, which right now is 160. I boosted it up another 157 from the gems. It has an arcane base of 37 that it just does arcane damage, and then it's getting plus 12 because of just the scaling. And I've also got lightning damage on it, which it didn't have before. It's being added. That's just the effect of one of the gems. It just so happened that one of the gems is that physical effects that was the strongest to bolster my modifier there also gave the lightning damage. So it doesn't normally have that though, right? You can see the numbers in the sort of leftmost column. Those are the base values of the weapon. So without any scaling, it would do 160 physical damage, and then it would do 37 arcane damage. So it's a split damage weapon here. And that's, I think, a representation in terms of its stats, that it's got this ethereal arcane form. Okay. Once again, very silly looking. Is that? Can't seem to charge that R2. Okay, it's not quite the same sequence of attacks if I do 3 sets of R1 there. And then if I hit L2... Interesting. You get a little bit of a cry, even. Oh, and you can see the skulls. I don't know... I wasn't paying close attention, so I don't know if you could see those before. But you can definitely see them having done that. If I make it so that you can see the skulls... and then hit R2. Well, that was different. I still can't charge that attack. So, interesting. It looks like this doesn't have a charged R2, or if it does. Interesting. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on with this weapon. It's very strange. But, anyway... there you have it. And of course, there is a little bit of irony, right? That the Cainhurst nobles, who used to laugh and enjoy the dances of the vengeful spirits from the executioner's gloves, should wind up with their blood in this weapon, such that they now produce the same effects, right? What's left of their souls is now a weapon in the hands of their enemies. So there's definitely a touch of irony going on there. So it's an interesting twist on a weapon. However, weapons aren't the only things that we're concerned with here. And actually, I do want this menu, but I don't want to go down to the equipment part of it just yet, because I want to make sure I read every part of the descriptions that are unique, and this is the best way to do that. Where are you, Executioner Set? Did I go past you already? I might have... This is the danger of me literally carrying all my attire around on me. How did I not see the gold Ardeo? Did I not? Oh, of course. I didn't buy it. It's available in the shop because I got the badge, but I didn't buy it. That's what it is. All right, so we're just going to have to read the gold Ardeo separately here. All right. Oh, that's a little bit sad. Maybe I'll save up for it between episodes, and by the time we're done with Yahar'gul, I will have this gold Ardeo. Anyway, the item name... could be golden Ardeo, right? Ardeo of gold. Arudeo is the Japanese. And obviously that's not Japanese. We're seeing, like the other items that are associated with the Healing Church, or not all of them, but many of the other items that are associated with the Healing Church, this is a Latin phrase. And if you think of the English word ardor, right, as this sort of burning passion, that's what Ardeo, right? The root of ardor is the same that you see linguistically in arudeo or ardeo, right? So it's like this idea of this burning passion, right? It's associated with flames and heat and also with passion. If I remember my looking up the Latin phrase for translation born ages ago accurately. I'm pretty sure I do. Definitely the link between Ardor and Ardeo is there, right? I used to think that Ardeo or Ardeo was just some fancy term for a hat that I'd never heard of before. And I mean, who has a hat that looks like this, right? Hardly anyone. So it's not a huge shock to me that that didn't turn out to be the case, but I didn't realize what it was, right? This hat sort of is an example of their undying passion, their ardor for their task, I suppose. And the fact that it's golden, right? The idea that it's this shining light, it's appropriate. It's golden passion or golden ardor is sort of what it represents, I think. Anyway, let's get to the description because that is referenced in the description of the item itself. The odd helmet of the squad of executioners once led by Martyr Ligarius. So, yeah, there you go. Alfred puts this on at some point in his quest. I think it's towards the end, where you get the sort of the reveal of his character. You also get the reveal of the helmet. Anyway, straightforward enough on that first line. Let's go ahead and continue with the rest of the description. That, guessing what? It's another Sorewa, right? I'm sort of in the middle of the first line of the second section here, because everything up to that point is modifying it, right? So the Sorewa, that is, right? It's going to be the subject. But what is that? In this case, I think it's pretty clear that this is a reference back to the item itself, the helmet from the previous line, right? The golden Ardeo, or the gold Ardeo. So the gold-colored, triangular gold Ardeo, which possesses a name of brilliance and passion, is the symbol of the executioner squad, right? So I sort of completed, right? I put all the modifiers together and then I kept going after I identified it as the subject, right? So again, right, this is why I said the description is going to reference the item name, right? Because it's triangular, literally triangular. I think pyramid makes more sense because it's an object in 3D space, right? So that which is a golden pyramid has a name of brilliance and passion, right? That's the ardor ardeo, right? It sort of means bright, and it also means passion at once from the Latin. And it's the symbol of the executioner squad. Again, differentiating, not the family of executioners related to the executioner's gloves. Totally different set of circumstances here. The executioner squad led by Martyr Ligarius. So this symbolizes them, right? Because they have passion, and I think they think they're brilliant, right? They think they're like guiding lights, maybe. I don't know. They certainly did not pick a subtle thing to make that their symbol. Let's go ahead and read the second line of the second section, though. It is a thing which displays their golden will, their unbending resolve against ritual impurity, right? So their passion, their ardor, and their brilliance, right? It's all directed at the extermination of the vile bloods, right? The things that they see as vile. So, I mean, there it is, right? It's their symbol, and it's everything about them is about killing the vile bloods. I don't like this group. Anyway, let's move on to the final set of lines here. This is a very cool translation choice, or like set like treatment that I remember from Translation Born, even if I'm going to be fuzzy on the details. But let's go ahead and end on this. Martyr Ligarius said, and then we have in quotes the final two lines here, "There is no relation between good evil and wise foolish. Therefore, we alone should strive to be good." Right? And it's like if you just hear a sort of literal version of that phrase, right, where he puts these two things, like these two opposites, sort of, these two qualities contrasted with each other, right, good evil and wise foolish, and says there's no relationship between them. I think the official translation takes that and turns it into what is good is not always wise, what is foolish is not always... I can't remember. I knew I was going to be fuzzy on the details, but they take that like weird dichotomy that the Japanese presents as a set of like individual terms and puts them right next to each other, and they pull it out into a phrase that sounds just like the sort of thing that you would get in terms of like teaching, right? A sermon, right? Because these are the words of the eminent martyr Ligarius, right? Who's leading the executioners. And so these people are all following this religious leader who's bent on massacre and slaughter and getting rid of the vile bloods, right? And so his idea is that, there's no real relationship between wise and foolish, good and bad. So we shouldn't concern ourselves with whether it's wise or foolish or bad to do what we do, I guess, right? We just want to focus on being good. And I guess his idea of being good is killing a lot of vile bloods. So I don't know. And of course, I'm sure I'll have put in editing the actual official translation so you can see for yourself just how much more effective it is to sort of untangle some of those concepts and come up with an actual phrase that sounds appropriate to something that Martyr Ligarius would say. Anyway, that's just the Gold Ardeo. I'm going to save up and buy that in between episodes. So for now, I guess we'll just take off our headgear. I guess we'll be Alfred before the reveal. And we'll get to the executioner clothing here. So the executioner garb. The name is pretty standard. You can see that final set of lines. It's all the same. You can see that once Martyr Ligarius said, and then, or not even once, just Martyr Ligarius said, and then the quotes, and the quote is exactly the same. I'm curious about the first section here, see if that's any different. So, garb of the executioner squad, once led by Martyr Ligarius. That first line is essentially the same, just modified to show that this is the garb, not the strange helmet. And second line of this first section here. Okay, so this is another one of the entries where we get the history of church clothing, right? So it is the foundation of later church clothing, and a holy shawl also drapes down thickly. So the idea is if we wanted to sort of trace the history of church clothing, we could go from, where's the student set? We could go from sort of this uniform, maybe this one with the cape makes a little bit more sense, to the executioner getup here, to where's the black and the white church sets. And of course, the holy shawl on these is noticeably slimmer, right? Because you can just see a little bit down the back, right? There's the white church shawl, which is sort of in two pieces here and relatively thin. This one has the shawl is black, but again, it's recognizable. And then you've got this one, which has a much thicker shawl, right? That whole cape along the back that's tied, looks like with string across the front, is the intermediate point where you've got this symbol of the church going on here. Also, worth pointing out, if you look closely at the chest piece, there is a hunter's mark symbol there, right? So that definitely identifies the executioners as being aligned with the hunt. It's just that, they have different prey, right? Our prey might differ. They're going after vile bloods. So they're not surgeons. All right, now where? It's so hard to tell the gloves apart. Okay, here we go. Executioner gauntlets. The first line is going to be essentially the same. The final set of lines is going to be essentially the same. The second line, though, is slightly different. I'm going to say brass rivets. I could be wrong about that. I'm going, I think, based off of memory rather than recognition. The term that's like the very first one, the two kanji at the start of the second line, are a term for, I'm pretty sure, some sort of metal, because it's referring to the rivets, so we can see what's going on here. But I can't, off the top of my head, I don't know what that is. So I'll put a dictionary definition on the screen. And in the meantime, I'll say brass from memory. The brass rivets are a unique design of them who are fond of... Right, so the first kanji, this is yet another sort of difficult term, but the first kanji in that 3 kanji set means meat. The second one, I'm guessing, means bullet, and then the last one means battle. So meat, bullet, battle, if you want to be super literal, but that doesn't actually convey a sense for what it is. It's the idea that these people are sort of throwing themselves at one another like meat missiles, right? and it conveys the idea of an intense, like, fist fight, like a brawl, right? So up close and personal, right? They like to fight hand to hand, up close and personal. This sort of barrage of meat, I guess. And that's why they have these rivets, which I guess are sort of like brass knuckles. So that's their unique design based off of that particular preference of theirs. They really want to, like, get their hands on you and throttle you. It's and their wheel weapon is all about blunt force trauma. Like, I get it's really unpleasant, but you're definitely paints a picture of the executioners. Okay, and let's see if the leg piece is the same. Where is the leg piece? Okay, right here. Here we go. Okay, once again, the first and the last sets of lines are going to be the same. What's going on with the second line? Okay, the second line is more in line with what we saw with the garb. It's became the cornerstone of later church garb. That makes sense. So we're almost there. Like I said, I'll have to get the Ardeo at some point in between episodes. But for now, we are a mostly equipped executioner, and boy, that took a lot longer than I thought it was going to take, but that's fine. We'll get back to it. We'll get back to... Okay, I was right. We'll get back to Yahar'gul, warping into the Yahar'gul church. Right, and I get to figure out how on earth this even works as a weapon. Alright, well that part seemed to work pretty well. Let's see how it does in terms of a plunging attack. Oh, it doesn't miss like the Tonitrus, that's nice. Okay, that was enough to kill that guy. Let's go ahead and drop on these dogs. Uh-oh. It's potentially very bad. Well, it worked out okay. Alright, that dog's going off somewhere else. I'm not going to deal with it. I'm going to focus on the bell ringer, who is hiding in this corner here. Well, at least it does a lot of damage. Alright, so while you're recovering, don't mind if I just set up a backstab here and get all that health back from the visceral. Okay, dog's here. Ah, I thought I'd be close enough that the bullet would go through me. Sometimes that happens. And not that time, obviously. I don't like you with your pitchfork. Okay. So long, dog. Right. Good. Making decent progress here. Now, the thing is... that was all with the untransformed weapon. And I have no idea what the transformed version is going to be like against actual enemies. And the enemies in the next room are going to be significant. But that's okay. I'll figure it out. Actually, there's one more enemy over here, isn't there? Oh, well, I like how much damage that did. That was very nice. Also nice to get those blood vials. Of course, this weapon is very slow. And the other thing you're going to notice... boom! Isn't this incredible? It's like a puzzle piece falling into place. We're back into the part of Yahar'gul that we were kidnapped to early on. And now we see how it connects to the rest of Yharnam. Right? It goes, if you go through the locked doorway in that shrouded church to the side of the Grand Cathedral, you come down all these stairs, you go through the other little chapel, come down here, and then you can walk right here. And because we went there early, this door is already open from the other side, and we can proceed this way if we don't want to deal with the nastiness that's in this room. I do want to deal with the nastiness in this room. I think it's kind of fun. Now, I think one of them should have... there are 3 hunters in this room. And I thought one of them would catch on to me by now. This one here with the beast claws, that one over there, it looks like a spear of some kind. Does that? Okay, that clearly doesn't count as a backstab. Anyway, now that they are like aware of my presence, I definitely need to get out of here. That's the tiny tonitrus, by the way. I'm going to show that off at some point. I'm going to read it. I have the weapon or item. It's a hunter tool. So I have the hunter tool, and I'm interested in reading that description, but it's going to have to wait a bit. First, we need to lead these hunters on a merry chase, because fighting 3 hunter NPCs at once is a recipe for losing. So if I run all the way back to this room, all but one, I'm pretty sure, will have fallen off. Nope, 2 of them have continued on. But I'm pretty sure they'll start to turn back at some point. They can't figure out that doorway, thankfully. So... yeah, the great mystery... oh! I was just going to say, the great mystery of an open door. Okay, so that weapon is faster than mine. So much faster that I succumbed to the flames and died. Alright, good to know. I knew this was going to be tricky. You know, if I'm going to use this weapon in its transformed state, I think I should practice with it in its transformed state, as opposed to what I did last time, where I was getting used to it in its untransformed state. Uh-oh. That time I completely missed, just like with the tonitrus. Okay, still 2 hits to take out this person. Now, what does spinning this thing do? Great. Fantastic. Oh, that I didn't do the spin. I did transform. I see. Okay. Oh, ooh, flying dogs. I think they're actually standing on like a thin... or they were standing on a thin piece of, like, rail up there. But that's okay. Alright, fast enough to deal with you. Boy, I could use more stamina if I'm going to use this weapon. L2, that's what I want to understand. What is the purpose of that L2? Uh-oh. Other than setting me up to fail... oh, well, I transformed it again. Alright, not what I wanted to have happen. Alright. I am thinking about this. Alright, I've led them away. Oh, this guy's come to join. Uh-oh. Right. Okay. Okay. I know when I need to regroup. Oh, you know what? I've got Molotov cocktails out. How do they do? Well, it helps if you get them to hit. Okay, the fact that I forgot I could one-shot them now that the bell ringer's gone. Okay. That's helpful. Being able to one-shot them now that the bell ringer's gone is helpful. Yeah, I figured it makes sense to heal anyway. Can I one-shot you? No. Okay. And the gunner is still a problem. That fence helps protect me, though. Okay, not going to drop any blood vials for me. That's a shame. But I can one-shot you, the gunner. Okay. I'm sure there was a better way out of that particular bind, but... oh well, I got through it. Could have been worse. Okay, now let's see. Okay, this is what I was expecting. This is much more like what I was expecting. Alright, how many people are following me? Is it just you right now? Looks like it's just you right now. Nope, it's going to be more. I saw that one back there. I only want a 1v1. Not a 2, much less a 3v1. I want a 1v1. Yeah, bring it on. You and me. Ah, even after he missed, he was faster? That's crazy. Oh, also I'm glad I didn't keep fighting because it would have turned into a 2v1. Also, I'm a fool! My blood echoes were right here! Alright, had to get those back. Now, I'm pretty sure I can hit some of these people. Come on, through the wall. They can hit me through the wall too, apparently. Ah, your tiny tonitrus doesn't go through, but my attacks do. Oh, man. going to be a question of who's got the better timing with their attack. I really don't want to turn this into a series where I'm just attacking walls. That's really less than ideal. Ha! Gotcha again. I would prefer it if one of you came in here. I suppose I could throw a Molotov cocktail. Alright, that's too low. Oh, there we go. Alright, you figured out the door again. Good. Excellent. I'll fight you. Please miss. Alright. I know that attack goes far. Yeesh! Alright, this weapon might just be too slow. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Whew! Alright, I'm gonna go back to this form. Yikes. Okay. Wow. He's still fast enough to... Gotcha. Alright, 136 there. What does this do? Does that do anything? I don't think it does. I don't understand. I'm going to have to look that up in between episodes as well, because it doesn't make sense to me that that L2 would do literally nothing. Yeah, I saw I had no stamina. Ah! Oh, you're alive? Come on. Gotcha. Alright. That's one down. And that hunter will now never respawn again. Oh, I've still got the... I've still got the Canehurst badge on. That's funny. Alright, now. You and me. Probably shouldn't fight this hunter in a place where they can attack me in straight lines. Uh-oh. I was really hoping to dodge into the doorway there. You know, feel a little bit safer over here. Okay. Uh-oh. Oh boy. Whew! That flamethrower almost got me again. I don't want to be in a corner. Oh, good. That was like the best time for you to do that. Oh, man. Alright, down to my last blood vial. I think I can probably still finish you off, though. Oh, I thought I was in the middle of another attack. I must have run out of stamina. Whew! Okay. How about a Molotov cocktail? What a hilariously anticlimactic end to that fight. It worked, though. I'm not going to argue with it. Alright, since I am out of blood vials, I think it's time that I restocked in the dream. And I'm going to just cut the journey, and then I'll be back, and I'll take on the last of those 3 hunters. Alright. Back from the dream. I grabbed some Molotov cocktails out of storage, because I bought a bunch at one point while I was farming. And then I, of course... Oh, right. These enemies are back. This is the downside of me replenishing my stores from the dream. Oh, that could have... I could have showed you the cool attack. Oh, well. Not the biggest of losses. Oh, right. Let's run around, actually, and take out that marksman, because it's going to be annoying if that enemy is still there. Getting ahead of myself. You know, I think I'd take out the big threat, and that's all I need to do. Oh, that was fun. That enemy's tall enough. that I attacked him even though I wasn't attacking him. Oh, I thought I did a plunging attack, and I did not. But that's okay. You're dead. Oh, I should have known. I only needed one attack. Alright. Oh, come on! I got interrupted. Don't interrupt me. Dog. There we go. The big guy hit me, but at least I didn't get interrupted. Caught the dog before it could get away. And caught you. There we are. That wasn't exactly pretty, but the job is once again done. I guess there's still the one person here who decided not to join this time. A wise decision. Farewell. Alright. Now then. The last of these enemies is this Beast Claw enemy this time. Normally it's not the Beast Claw enemy. Interesting that it would be this person. Normally the Beast Claw enemy is the one I, like, separate first. And you know what? I don't think I can get a backstab in the transformed state. So let's just make it a regular wheel again. Get the hit. Get the backstab. And now we can fight. Usually the one that's last in this sequence is the one with the cannon. But for some reason, that's not how it worked out this time. Possibly because of a difference in 1.00, but I'm not sure. Boy, this guy is a lot... Oh, well, got his claws on me after all. I'm going to say a lot easier than the other two. There we go. Might as well heal up just a bit here. And we get the claw mark room, very appropriate for someone who's transformed into a beast. Can't remember if I've read claw mark or not. I think I have. Maybe I just got it from Gilbert and I haven't read it yet. I'll have to review that in between episodes as well. Got a lot of sort of maintenance-related things to do. But I think it's been a fairly decent length for an episode, so I think I will call an end to my hunt for the evening, at least shortly, because given the things that I have to do in between episodes, I think having defeated those 3 hunters is enough to sort of save my progress, even though obviously these enemies are going to be back. They're going to be easier to ignore if I know that I can just run forward and not have to worry about any difficult fights. So in order to better enable me to save up a few more blood echoes for the Golar Deo and take stock of what items I do and don't need to read, I'm going to return to the dream. Right. We haven't really gotten to the point where we can make the main push to the end of Yahar'gul. Right? Yahar'gul, to be fair to the rest of the game, I was saying that Bloodborne's sort of almost over. It is almost over. There's only, like, 2 more areas for me to explore, but Yahar'gul, at least, is pretty big, right? So even though it's one of the few remaining areas of the game, it is at least a large area. I'm not counting it when I say 2, by the way. There's 2 in addition to Yahar'gul that I can think of. I might have forgotten one. I don't think I did, though. There's really not that much left in the game. But I'm still trying to show off everything that I can before we get to the end. This is a 10-year celebration of Bloodborne. So I want to do some stuff in between episodes. Maybe a little bit of Chalice Engineering. I don't know. If my scheduling is correct, this is the last episode that's going to come out. And at that point, not the last in the series, obviously, but the one that's going to come out, at which point I will have returned from my vacation. I think this is the last recording I'll need to bank up. So that'll maybe give me a little bit of leeway here while I'm doing the editing on these episodes to get things in order so that when I come back, I can just dive straight back into making some progress, and I'll have a better idea of what I have and haven't read, what I need to go through, get all that sorted out, and we can pick things up from there. But you don't need to worry too much about that. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed your time coming along on my hunt, but I'm going to call an end to mine for the evening. You can keep going with yours, and if you do, I wish all of you good hunting. Maybe the Logarius wheel is difficult to gesture with. Good hunting, everyone!